2 weeks ago, Behavior released the 6.1.0 mid-chapter update that included the Progression and Prestige Rework and a bunch of perk changes. But what are the 10 best killer perks in Dead by Daylight after the 6.1.0 mid-chapter update? Starting off with Barbecue and Chili from Leatherface. Even after Barbecue got nerfed in the mid-chapter update, its ability remains the same, just without the blood point bonus. After you hook a survivor, all other survivors who are farther away than 60, 50 or 40 meters from the hook will have their aura revealed to you. Barbecue's intended function remains the same, and even without the blood point bonus, it's still a pretty good perk. Next up we have Discordance, which is one of Legion's 3 unique perks. Any generator within a range of 64, 96 or 128 meters that is being repaired by 2 or more survivors is marked by a yellow aura. When the generator is first highlighted, Discordance triggers a loud noise notification on the generator. After the generator is no longer within range or is being repaired by just one survivor, the highlighted aura will linger for 4 seconds. Discordance always was and still is a pretty good perk to find survivors and stop gen rushing. The third perk on this list is the Onryo's perk Scourge Hook Gift of Pain. A Scourge Hook perk turns 4 random hooks into Scourge Hooks, which are indicated by a white aura. After a survivor is unhooked from a Scourge Hook, the survivor suffers from the Hemorrhage and Mangled status effect until he is being healed. And after the survivor is healed, he will suffer from a 10, 13 or 16% action speed penalty to healing and repairing until they are injured again. So if a survivor decides to not heal to avoid the healing and repairing penalty, they stay injured and can be easily down with a single hit. And if they decide to heal, they are going to waste extra time because of the 2 status effects, and as soon as they are fully healed up, they are going to suffer from the 16% healing and repairing penalty. All in all, Gift of Pain is a very strong perk that allows you to slow down the gen progression and healing speed of the trial to your advantage. While already talking about Scourge Hook perks, let's move on to the second Scourge Hook perk on this list called Pain Resonance from the Artist. Each time a survivor is hooked on a Scourge Hook, the generator with the most progression explodes and instantly loses 9, 12 or 15% of its progression, while the generator also starts to regress. If a survivor is currently repairing on that generator, he will be interrupted when the generator explodes, but the killer will not receive any notification. Since Pop Goes to Weasel got nerfed, Scourge Hook Pain Resonance seems like the better option to go with, especially when you're using other Scourge Hook perks. The only real problem you could run into when using this perk would be to reach the Scourge Hooks before the survivor is able to wiggle off. But if you get used to it and remember where the perks are, this will not be that big of a deal anymore and you're most likely going to reach the hook most of the time. Other than that, you have the advantage over perks like Pop Goes the Weasel to use Pain Resonance passively. Pop Goes the Weasel requires you to walk up to a gen and kick it, while Pain Resonance is not tied to a time limit and automatically regresses the generator with the most progression. And the last Scourge Hook perk we're going to talk about today also belongs to the Onryo and is called Scourge Hook Floods of Rage. Each time a survivor is unhooked from a Scourge Hook, the auras of all survivors are revealed to you for 5, 6 or 7 seconds. This is basically Barbecue and Chili as a Scourge Hook perk, but other than Barbecue, Floods of Rage allows you to wander around the map while still showing you every survivor's aura as soon as the survivor is unhooked. The only real downside with this is that you have to hook survivors on Scourge Hooks, but as mentioned before, this shouldn't be too hard. And since Barbecue and Chili lost the blood point bonus, Scourge Hook Floods of Rage is definitely a better option to go with now, if you don't mind the Scourge Hooks. Let's talk about Jolt, also known as Surge next, which is a Demogorgon perk and since the Stranger Things chapter got removed, also available for free on every killer. Jolt is another perk that is very useful for generator regression and to prevent survivors from gen rushing. Whenever you put a survivor into the dying state with your basic attack, all generators within 32 meters of you instantly explode and start regressing. Jolt also applies an immediate 6, 7 or 8% progression penalty on the generators. Jolt is not only a good perk itself, it can also be very useful for all killers that can only or mainly use their basic attack. The next perk on this list belongs to the Nemesis and is called Lethal Pursuer. And until recently, Lethal Pursuer was almost completely useless. It just allowed you to see the auras of all survivors at the start of the trial for 7, 8 or 9 seconds. But Lethal Pursuer got buffed in the mid-chapter update, and it also extends the duration of all other aura reading effects by 2 seconds now. So let's say you're using Barbecue and Chili on tier 3, which would allow you to see all survivors' auras who are at least 40 meters away from you for 4 seconds after a survivor is unhooked. With Lethal Pursuer, you're going to be able to see their auras for 6 seconds now. The perk itself isn't very strong because it only allows you to see the survivors' auras at the start of the trial. But combined with other aura perks, Lethal Pursuer is definitely a strong perk to use. A perk that also got reworked in the recent mid-chapter update is the Nurse's perk Thanatophobia. For each injured, dying or hooked survivor, Thanatophobia incurs a stackable 1, 1.5 and 2% penalty to all survivors' repairing, sabotaging and cleansing action speeds. If all 4 survivors are either injured, dying or hooked, Thanatophobia grants an additional 12% penalty to survivors' action speeds, which makes up for a total of 20%. Thanatophobia is a solid perk to choose for delaying the gen rush with your repairing, sabotaging and cleansing action speed penalty, while forcing survivors to waste time healing themselves and other survivors to avoid the penalty. Next up we have Deadman Switch, a Death Slinger perk. After you hook a survivor, Deadman Switch activates for the next 20, 25 or 30 seconds. While it is activated, any survivor that stops repairing a generator before it's fully repaired causes the entity to block the generator until Deadman Switch ends. Generators affected by Deadman Switch are highlighted by a white aura. Again, this perk comes in pretty handy when combining it with similar perks, while it is also going to help you prevent gen rushing. And last but not least, we have Hex Pentimento belonging to the Artist. Hex Pentimento allows you to see the auras of cleansed totems. You can perform a ritual on a cleansed totem to resurrect it as a rekindled totem. And for each rekindled totem active at the same time, Hex Pentimento gains an additional effect. One totem decreases the repair speed of every survivor by 20, 25 or 30%. 2 totems decrease the healing speed of every survivor by 20, 25 or 30%. 3 totems decrease the recovery speed from being down for every survivor by 20, 25 or 30%. 4 totems decrease the exit gate opening speed of every survivor by 20, 25 or 30%. And 5 totems permanently block all the totems by the entity. When a rekindled totem is cleansed, its remains are consumed by the entity and it cannot be rekindled. Even if I don't really like Hex perks, Hex Pentimento is definitely a good option for everyone out there that has more luck than me and is able to save their totems from being found in the first minute of the trial. When you are able to place down some totems, this perk will definitely slow down the game to your advantage. The only real problem with it are experienced players who might notice which perk you're using and just keep looking around for your totems. Make sure to leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree with my choices, and tell me which killer perks are part of your top 10 list. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe for more, and I will see you next time.